From the Presidential Palace, Manila, Dateline Malacañang.
Good day. Radio Pilipinas World Service can also be heard on shortwave broadcast through the shortwave facilities of the United States Agency for Global Media, or Voice of America, on the following shortwave frequencies: 12.020 MHz, 15.640 MHz, and 17.665 MHz. I'm your host, Leo Magpayo, and this is Dateline Malacañang in Review. Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. on Monday welcomed 343 overseas Filipino workers, or OFWs, repatriated from the Middle East as the government accelerates evacuation efforts amid rising regional tensions. The group arrived at Villamor Air Base in Pasay City aboard the fourth government-chartered flight from Saudi Arabia. Department of Migrant Workers, or DMW Secretary Hans Leo Kakdak said the passengers include Filipinos from Qatar, Kuwait, Bahrain, and Saudi Arabia, many of whom endured long land travel due to airspace restrictions. Kakdak added that the repatriates had to cross borders by land, traveling 7 to 8 hours on average to reach Riyadh before boarding the Philippine Airlines chartered flight home. Around 10 to 15 dependents, including children, were also on board. Kakdak said more Filipinos are expected to return soon, with the fifth and sixth chartered flights being prepared from the United Arab Emirates, home to a large Filipino community. He assured that government funds for repatriation and reintegration remain sufficient. Returning OFWs will receive temporary shelter, transportation, financial assistance, and arrangements for travel to their home provinces. The ongoing repatriation is part of the government's continuing efforts to ensure the safety of Filipinos affected by the escalating conflicts in the Middle East.
Dateline Malacañang.
Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. spent Monday morning in Pili, Camarines Sur Province, walking through the newly built Bicol Mega Cold Storage and Processing Facility, an investment he says is meant to ease the daily struggles of Filipino farmers. Speaking after the inspection, the president acknowledged what farmers have long endured: long hours in the fields, unpredictable weather, and the pressure to sell their harvest quickly before it spoils. President Marcos told them the government wants to change that. Without cold storage, he said, farmers often have no choice but to accept whatever price traders offer. But with this new facility, run not by big companies but by a local group, farmers will finally have the power to decide when to sell and at what price. The facility is massive: 6 refrigerated rooms, a blast freezer, a prep area, and solar panels to keep everything running. With a 500 million peso investment and a capacity of more than 200,000 tons a year, it's designed to help over 200,000 farmers across Bicol, Visayas, and Mindanao. President Marcos also highlighted the vegetable and fruit processing center beside it. Here, produce can be turned into frozen cuts, dried goods, canned items, or purees, value-added products that can bring more income to local communities instead of large corporations. During the tour, the chief executive watched workers demonstrate the equipment and even sampled some of the processed items. For many farmers in the region, the hope is simple: that these facilities will finally give them a fair shot at earning from the food they grow.
Mag-organize tayo ng grupo na magko-control dito para kayo ang magpapatakbo nito. Kayo magsasabi kung kailan ibebenta, kaninong tatanggapin na produkto. Lahat ay kinukuha nga ng kinukuha ng San Miguel lahat ito dahil napakagandang facility. Pero pagka silang kumuha, silang kikita. Hindi naman tama yun. Kaya nga namin ginawa ito para mas magandang kita ng ating mga farmer. Alam namin na ang buong Pilipinas ang nagpapakain ay ang ating mga magsasaka. At alam naman natin kung gaano kahirap maghanap buhay na nagsasaka. Both national at saka local government, dapat pareho nagtutulungan, lahat ginagawa para maaasahan natin ang ating food supply.
Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr.
Dateline Malacañang.
More than 1,800 farmers in Camarines Sur Province are set to benefit from 2 solar-powered irrigation projects worth 332 million pesos as the National Irrigation Administration or NIA pushes sustainable agriculture under the Marcos Jr. administration. Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. on Monday inspected the 2 facilities in Minalabac and Bula, which aim to boost food security and modernize farming through climate-resilient technology. The projects include 126.7 million peso solar pump irrigation project of the San Agustin-San Ramon Agrarian Reform Farmers Cooperative in Bula, and the 205.46 million peso new Mazba solar pump irrigation project in Minalabac. With a shift to solar energy, farmer cooperatives have drastically reduced their electricity costs. SARF, for example, or the San Ramon Agrarian Reform Farmers Cooperative, used to spend 300,000 to 450,000 pesos a month to power irrigation pumps. Those expenses have now dropped significantly, allowing farmers to save more and earn more. The solar-powered systems also ensure a steady and uninterrupted water supply, eliminating the risk of power-related disruptions. Funded under the 2024 establishment of Groundwater Pump Irrigation Project, the 2 systems cover more than 1,800 hectares and serve 1,854 farmers. NIA Administrator Eduardo Guillen said solar-powered irrigation remains a key strategy to lower production costs and raise agricultural productivity nationwide. With the completion of the projects, NIA reaffirmed its commitment to modernizing agriculture, empowering farmers, and supporting long-term food security.
Dateline Malacañang.
Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. on Tuesday announced the expansion of fuel subsidy distribution to more public utility vehicle or PUV operators nationwide as part of government efforts to cushion the impact of rising oil prices. Speaking at the Parañaque Integrated Terminal Exchange or PITX, President Marcos said the subsidy program, initially rolled out to bus operators in Metro Manila, will now cover additional PUV sectors across the country. Each bus unit will receive 10,000 pesos in fuel assistance. He added that the government is studying the wider use of digital payment systems to speed up the release of subsidies. The president noted that traditional modes such as cash and checks remain available for beneficiaries who prefer them. President Marcos also called for cooperation from transport operators and drivers to ensure the smooth implementation of the program. The fuel subsidy is part of the administration's broader measures to mitigate the effects of global oil price volatility amid tensions in the Middle East.
Nandito ako para tiyakin na yung aming ginagawa na fuel subsidy ay maayos kasi mag-start tayo today. Pero hindi lamang dito sa Metro Manila pero all over the country na ito. So, making sure na yung sistema ay maging maayos. So we are now providing 10,000 subsidy for each bus unit. So with the cooperation, ako malakas ang loob ko sabihin na pagka basta't nagtutulungan tayo, yung private sector at saka yung kayong mga operator at saka kami in government, sana maging hindi na wala yung pakiramdam ng ating riding public. Yun ang ating mga siniservisyohan. Matiyak natin na maging maayos ang kanilang pagbiyahe.
That was Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr.
Dateline Malacañang.
Also on Tuesday, Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. has placed the country under a state of national energy emergency amid rising tensions in the Middle East that threaten global fuel supply. Under Executive Order, or EO number 110, the President warned that disruptions in key routes like the Strait of Hormuz could trigger price spikes and strain the Philippines' fuel-dependent economy. The order empowers the Department of Energy, or DOE, and other agencies to implement coordinated measures to secure stable and sufficient energy supply. EO 110 also activates the Unified Package for Livelihoods, Industry, Food and Transport, or UPLIFT framework designed to protect essential services, sustain economic activity, and shield vulnerable sectors. A committee chaired by the President will oversee fuel and goods distribution, ensure transport and utilities remain operational, and streamline government processes to maintain economic stability. The DOE is directed to enforce fuel optimization, load management, and stricter conservation efforts while accelerating the shift to renewable energy and electric transport. Public awareness campaigns on energy efficiency will also be intensified. Government agencies, local government units or LGUs, and private stakeholders are ordered to coordinate closely to prevent hoarding, stabilize supply, and support affected communities. Funding will come from existing agency budgets. The declaration is anchored on the DOE Act, which authorizes the President to act during imminent energy shortages.
Dateline Malacañang.
Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. on Wednesday signed Republic Act, or RA 12316, granting the executive emergency powers to suspend or reduce excise taxes on petroleum products as global oil prices surge due to the Middle East crisis. The new law, combining Senate Bill No. 1823 and House Bill No. 8220, takes effect immediately and amends the National Internal Revenue Code to allow tax adjustments once Dubai crude prices hit at least $80 per barrel for a full month. Any suspension or reduction may be applied to specific fuel products until December 31st, 2028. RA 12316 requires oil companies to submit monthly cost data to the Department of Energy, or DOE, while the Bureau of Internal Revenue and Customs must provide regular value-added tax or VAT computation updates. The President must also report to Congress the basis, projected revenue losses, expected social benefits, and economic impact of any tax action. The measure comes as fuel prices climb and follows the president's recent declaration of a national energy emergency. Officials say the law equips government with added tools to stabilize pump prices and ease inflation pressures on consumers and businesses.
Dateline Malacañang.
Meanwhile, manufacturers have agreed not to raise basic commodity prices for the time being. Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. said Wednesday, as the government seeks to mitigate the impact of rising global oil costs on consumers. During a news conference in Malacañang, President Marcos stated that producers will maintain current prices as long as stockpiles last. The guarantee comes as global oil price volatility, fueled by Middle East tensions, threatens to raise production and transportation costs, potentially impacting retail pricing of vital products. The government has been working with manufacturers and industry partners as part of a larger policy to keep prices stable and safeguard consumers, particularly low and middle-income households. To avoid pricing pressures from cascading across the supply chain, authorities are implementing complementary measures such as fuel subsidies for important sectors, expanded subsidized food programs, and attempts to minimize logistics costs. To mitigate the impact on consumers, the government is extending food access programs such as free rice distribution by local government units or LGUs via the Local Government Support Fund or LGSF. President Marcos added that the government is assuring an adequate supply of agricultural inputs including fertilizer. To further stabilize food prices, the government has cut logistics charges for agricultural items, such as the 1 peso roll-on roll-off or RORO terminal fee, as well as cars transporting agricultural products.
Patuloy din ang ating ibinibigay sa ating mga magsasaka ang fuel at fertilizer subsidies para sa magsasaka at para sa mga mangingisda, para hindi ipasa yung pagtaas ng presyo ng kanilang ginagamit na krudo, hindi mapasa lahat sa mga consumer. At sumagot na ang ating mga manufacturer na hindi sila magtataas ng presyo ng pangunahing bilihin sa ngayon. At hanggat kaya, nangako naman sila, hanggat kaya nila na i-maintain ang presyo. Kasi ang pinagbibili ngayon nila ay yung nasa inventaryo na nila. Nabili nila ng mura pa bago pa nangyari lahat ito. Kaya habang nandyan ang kanilang inventaryo, nangako sila na hindi nila itataas ang presyo ng mga primary commodities. Magsisimula na rin magbigay ang ating mga LGU ng libreng bigas. Ito ay nagsimula, yung LGSF program ito, nagsimula ito bago pa nagkagera. Pero i-roll out ito within the next week or two. So ginamit natin dyan ang LGSF, the Local Government Support Fund. Diniretso natin sa ating mga local government para sila na ang magbibigay ng tulong. Ang ating ang programang ito ay nagbibigay tayo sa bawat LGU ng pondo, at ang hinihingi lang namin sa kanila na minimum 50% ng LGSF fund na natatanggap nila ay gawing pambili ng bigas para maipamigay sa kanilang mga constituent. Maaari nilang gawin 100% na bigas, nasa sa kanila yon. Ngunit kailangan at the minimum 50% doon sa natanggap nilang pondo ay gagamitin sa pagbili at pagbigay ng bigas.
Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr.
Dateline Malacañang.
Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. on Wednesday led the send-off of 290 physicians under the Doctors to the Barrios, or DTTB program, underscoring the government's push to strengthen healthcare access in underserved communities. Speaking at the Heroes Hall in Malacañang Palace, President Marcos said the deployment of the 43rd batch under the program comes at a critical time as residents of many rural and geographically isolated areas continue to face limited access to medical services. The latest batch marks the largest single deployment in the program's history, bringing the total number of deployed physicians under the initiative to nearly 3,000 since its establishment in 1993. President Marcos highlighted that the sustained implementation of the program led to a milestone in 2025. Despite this, the President emphasized the need to ensure continuity and accessibility of healthcare services. He added that the government is strengthening support systems for healthcare workers, including investments in training, safety, and well-being. The DTTB program deploys physicians to remote and underserved areas, including geographically isolated and disadvantaged areas, or GIDAs, to improve primary healthcare delivery. President Marcos urged the new batch of doctors to uphold service and compassion in their assignments across the country.
Access to healthcare in rural and geographically isolated areas remains heavily constrained by limited resources, by distance, and the absence of medical professionals. Through the sustained implementation of this program, we have reached a historic milestone of 0 doctorless municipalities nationwide in 2025. Today also marks a significant achievement, because now we have before us the largest single deployment in the program's history. Batch 43 is composed of 290 physicians. And it is an achievement, but it is not our endpoint yet. Hindi sapat na may doktor lamang sa isang lugar. Mahalaga ring matayak ang tuloy-tuloy at madaling maabot na serbisyo na naibibigay sa ating mga kababayan. More than just delivering healthcare, you are being deployed to help ensure that our people, especially those in the GIDAs, receive the services that they need. We continue to strengthen the National Health Workforce Support System. We will invest in your training, in your safety, and your well-being, so that you might be able to continue to serve with excellence, to heal with care, and to lead with compassion.
As Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr.
Dateline Malacañang.
Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. has signed Republic Act, or RA 12317, officially moving the first regular elections in the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao, or BARM, to the second Monday of September 2026. The law extends the Bangsamoro Transition Authority, or BTA's tenure, allowing its interim members to continue serving unless replaced by the President or elected to another post. RA 12317 directs the Commission on Elections, or COMELEC, to craft the rules of the BARM polls and to use the same automated election system deployed in the May 2025 national elections. A new filing period for certificates of candidacy and party nominations will also be set, requiring those submitted from November 4 to 9, 2024 to be refiled. All registered voters in BARM precincts will be eligible to participate. Elected officials will begin their terms on October 30, 2026 and serve until June 30th, 2031. Starting 2031, terms will begin every June 30th. Funding for the implementation of the law will come from COMELEC's existing appropriations, with BARM allowed to provide additional support if needed.
Dateline Malacañang.
Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. on Thursday shared some big news about the country's energy future. The Camago 3 well in the Malampaya gas field has been successfully drilled, and early tests show it can produce a strong flow of natural gas. In simple terms, this means the Philippines can rely more on its own energy and less on expensive imported fuels. According to the president, Camago 3 is a major win. It's part of the ongoing Malampaya Phase 4 expansion and is even bigger than the first discovery announced earlier this year. Together, these new wells could stretch Malampaya's life by about 6 more years, a huge boost for Luzon, which gets up to a fifth of its electricity from this single gas field. President Marcos also broke down what this means for ordinary Filipinos: more stable power and potentially lower electricity costs. Gas from Malampaya is much cheaper than imported liquefied natural gas or LNG, so every kilowatt hour produced locally helps ease the burden on households and small businesses. The chief executive added that this progress comes at a crucial time, with global fuel prices unstable due to tensions in the Middle East. To keep the momentum going, new pipelines will be installed under the sea, the first upgrade of this kind in more than 2 decades. If all goes according to plan, the country could start receiving gas from the new well by late 2026. And the work isn't stopping there. Another well, fittingly named Bagong Pag-asa, is already in development. President Marcos Jr. framed the project as a step toward energy independence, a way to protect Filipinos from rising global fuel prices and secure a more reliable power supply for the years ahead.
My fellow Filipinos, today I am proud to announce another step forward in our mission to secure affordable, reliable energy for every Filipino. The Camago 3 well has been successfully drilled and tested, producing up to 60 million standard cubic feet of gas per day. It is the second major milestone under our $893 million Malampaya Phase 4 campaign, and it is significantly larger than our first. Camago 3 holds an estimated 2.5 times more recoverable gas than the Malampaya East 1 discovery. So together, these 2 wells are projected to extend the life of the Malampaya gas field by an estimated 6 years. Ano naman ang ibig sabihin nito para sa inyo? It means more power, steadier power, and cheaper power. Malampaya gas costs us roughly 4 pesos and 80 centavos per kilowatt hour. Imported LNG costs 10 pesos and 30 centavos, more than double. Every unit of power we generate from Malampaya instead of imported fuel is money saved by households, by small businesses, by every Filipino that pays an electric bill. Alam natin lahat kung gaano kahalaga ito ngayon. Ang kaguluhan sa Middle East ay nagdudulot ng matinding pabago-bago sa presyo ng gasolina sa buong mundo. Kaya naman, ginawa natin ang lahat para masiguro na may sarili tayong supply ng enerhiya upang maibsan ang epekto ng kaguluhan nito sa pang-araw-araw na buhay ng ating mga kababayan. For the first time since the year 2000, new subsea pipelines are being laid in Philippine waters. Ibig sabihin, may bagong tubo na itinatanim sa ilalim ng dagat para maihatid ang gas mula sa pinagkukuhanan patungo sa ating mga tahanan at negosyo. We are not just extending a gas field. We are rebuilding our energy infrastructure from the ground up. We are targeting first gas delivery by the 4th quarter of 2026, and we are not stopping there. The next well
Bagong Pag-asa sits 30 kilometers north of Malampaya and is already in the works. This is indigenous energy. It is ours. This is our future, and it is how we protect every Filipino from the burden of rising global fuel prices.
Was Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr.
Dateline Malacañang.
And finally, Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. formally opened the new westbound off-ramp of the Ninoy Aquino International Airport or NAIA Expressway leading directly to NAIA Terminal 3. The inauguration was held in Pasay City on Friday, marking another key upgrade to the airport road network. In his message to reporters, the president said the latest improvements will save commuters up to 30 minutes of travel time. According to President Marcos, the goal is simple: make travel easier and more efficient for Filipinos, especially during peak travel periods like Holy Week. The newly completed 320-meter two-lane structure provides a dedicated, grade-separated connection from NAIA X Phase 2 straight into Terminal 3. The project also includes road widening works at the Circulo del Mundo Rotunda, one of the area's most congested choke points. Officials said the off-ramp is expected to significantly ease traffic along Andrews Avenue and surrounding roads by diverting airport-bound vehicles away from busy at-grade intersections. Travel time to Terminal 3 is projected to drop by 15 to 25 minutes, especially during peak hours. The initiative forms part of the government's broader effort to modernize Metro Manila's road network, improve traffic flow, and ensure the faster movement of people, goods, and services across the capital region. The new link is also seen as a crucial enhancement for travelers, airport workers, and logistics operators who rely on seamless access to the country's main international gateway.
Save approximately 1/2 hour ng traffic sa ating mga commuters, sa ating mga travelers. One of the other things that we have done is already bubuksan natin ang connector road mula Cavitex hanggang sa C5. At mabubuksan na rin papuntang Cabanatuan. Patuloy natin pinabubuksan lahat ng mga ating kalsada upang mas madali ang magiging travel sa ating mga kababayan, lalong-lalo na ngayon na may Holy Week.
Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr.
Dateline Malacañang.
Before we conclude our program, Radyo Pilipinas World Service of the Presidential Broadcast Service can be heard over the following shortwave frequencies: 12.020 MHz, 15.640 MHz, and 17.665 MHz. Radyo Pilipinas World Service is also live on audio streaming. Just download Evox PBS Receiver on your Google Play Store or the App Store from your Apple phone. You can also visit our Facebook page and YouTube channel. Just type in and search for Radyo Pilipinas World Service. Kindly subscribe, like, and share our posts as well. And that concludes this edition of Dateline Malacañang in Review. For Radyo Pilipinas World Service, this is Leo Magpayo. Good day and stay safe.
From the Presidential Palace, Manila, Dateline Malacañang.